Okay, welcome to Talk Tennis. Today we have Oak, Manish, and Troy
Yeah, the gang's back, man.
back together.
What little gang you're talking about?
Don't laugh.
The tension.
Yeah, I know. Actually, maybe we should add. I'm going to leave this here. If you think of something, you can add a topic to the list. But today we're doing trending tennis topics and beyond. I am going to set a timer. It is currently 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
This episode will not go beyond 30 minutes. And each topic has 5 minutes of discussion.
I like that.
Well,
Rapid
yeah,
fire,
we
yeah.
got some rules today.
Okay.
So I have a few pre-selected topics that came from some of us and then some of the people on YouTube. And then again, if you think of something that you want to add to the list, and I did not put in, there's something that we debated last week that I really wanted to throw in there. Maybe we should.
Oh,
I'll put it right now.
fighting words.
Oh,
the guys
okay.
are fighting words.
Is that like?
I think I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that banned from the message board? That kind of
Exactly. Like, it's not fair. if
That's
we-
why we're not the message board.
True.
You can do this on the other side of Talk Tennis, which is the podcast. So
All right.
here we go.
You know.
Okay, so let me see. Okay. You guys want to get started?
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Someone
Right.
pick something.
If anybody starts rambling, Michelle's gonna wind us down.
Yeah.
All right,
They
Troy,
play you
wanna go?
off like music.
We don't even know what's in it.
We don't even know.
Go
Okay,
for it,
pick
Mish.
one.
Troy, go.
Let's see how we start.
Drum roll. Okay, this is a good one, Oak.
yeah.
ITF tournaments versus ATP WTA.
All right, that's you wrote
Yes.
an article on it, so
Did.
Start us out, Oak. The timer has begun.
Well, we did get to go to both BMP and the Templeton ITF 75 through Tennis Warehouse. And, you know, two sides of California tennis. Really fun to see.
both
like,
great experiences.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, but it's like polar opposites in some ways because you're getting a really close, intimate setting versus like a very large spectacle. I think I talked about BMP kind of being like an amusement park, but it's so cool to see the different ways in which tennis can impact like the masses and people on like a smaller personal level. But yeah, I mean, I think Templeton's great. The local club is beautiful. It's really scenic, great venue. You can get super close. I mean, you were on court taking pictures.
Yeah, that was
like,
crazy.
you know, we're
Cool,
just
and,
talking to professional players and getting their insights and opinions on things. And I think it sort of like, it humanizes the athletes in a lot of ways when you get to be like that close and that sort of connected with them. But it also at the same time doesn't, you know, take away from
Right.
anything that they're doing. If anything, it kind of elevated it for me. So it was a great tournament. And yeah, just go check out local tennis. And if you have a challenger near you, definitely go.
There's definitely two different sides of it. I like the big spectacle of like how BNP, like all these big stars, and you can't like talk to them, like they come by you, you can get them to sign everything.
It's like a
And
tennis Coachella, right?
Yeah, it's like dreamland for
Yeah.
you know, a tennis player. But then you go to the likes of Templeton or the tournament there. You can even like sometimes say hi to them, like talk to them like casually, like, hey, like how are you doing and all that. We got to speak to the stringer. We got to go into the player lounge. Like, we don't get
Like a room. It's like a room for the
Yeah,
player
it's just a
lounge. Whereas
room,
like,
like-
BNP, they have like the whole like players area,
Yeah.
locker room, big screen TVs.
right. Like it's a bigger
Food.
spectacle. Yeah.
They have their own food.
yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas,
they have like their own.
Yeah, but like when we walked in there, remember like Lauren Davis was just sitting there chilling on like watching like Instagram reels, and like Renata Zarazua's dad just walked in and say, "Hey Tina, what's up?" I'm like, wait, who are we?
Yeah, so
You
you're
know?
like walking through the halls, rubbing shoulders with them, so to speak.
Right.
You know, you see them in the little cafeteria. Like you talk about food, they have like a little snack bar.
Mm-hmm.
And the
And
practice court,
Single.
not plural.
Yeah. They're like splitting it down the middle.
Yeah,
One
like even
single.
our player Tara, she had like a scheduling issue one day with the practice court. She booked it, but then the tournament director, and I'm sure they go through
Yeah.
that at BNP and stuff.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, there's what like
20?
20 something practice courts. You know, it's like there's usually most parts of the tournament at BNP. There's so many that there's some like at the far end that are just like people that have already lost in the tournament. You know, a smaller doubles team. This one, you're like everybody's practicing on one court. And then just like the setting, like the intimate setting at Templeton. There's a lot more ITF tournaments out there than just Templeton, but this is our example, kind of a small tournament. And we're like up on the deck and we're like watching, and then we're kind of like making an observation. And It's surrounded by like vineyards and stuff, and then you just see the cattle
Yeah.
cattle like kind of
the
wandering,
background.
and it's like it's
Mooing.
very much that area like Templeton and Paso Robles and Atascadero, that part of California right here. But
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then even just like you don't have to fight at all for like space to watch. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty easy to literally be on top of the court and like sit wherever you want to sit. Whereas at BMP, like now, people are like camping out hours before their favorite player practices, and you can't even like get a grandstand seat if Alcaraz is practicing. It's so wild.
Yeah.
You have to pick and choose who you're gonna see.
Yeah, definitely. And then this one, you can kind of just camp out at the top. You can watch like all the courts,
Yeah.
more or less.
We saw some pretty good names. We've seen, like we've been there last year as well. You and I. Was it last
Yeah,
year
we saw
before?
Taylor Townsend play the
We saw
final.
Townsend play again, the winner for this year, Renata Zua, who's again
Team T-Dub.
Team T-Dub.
Let's go.
Which
And
is
career
sick.
high ranking.
Yeah,
Around
ranking,
like
yeah, true,
70-ish or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Top
74.
75.
Yeah.
Might have moved again this week, sorry. But yeah, she's on the up and ups.
She's doing really well, which is really nice.
She never looks bothered. Like,
yeah, she's very chill.
she's very casual when she plays. Like,
She's
obviously,
fun to
you know,
watch.
hitting hard,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah, but like she gets every ball back.
and she has like net clearance of like 5 feet. Crazy.
Super
If I could.
fast too. Yeah.
We did a quick bag check or a couple of them,
Yeah,
and we were
yeah.
like thinking about it when we did one with Kayla Day, and like we were on like we were like in the corner of a pickleball court because it was like a good little angle spot away from everything. But then we made the comment of like the players that do the ones with the bag checks on Tennis
Oh,
Channel.
yeah.
It's out in that grass area in BNP.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like a known area because we see those commercials all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the timer. Next
Yeah.
topic.
Oh, wow.
That was
fun.
sick. Yeah, that
felt
was
longer than
sick.
5 minutes. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, look at us. Okay, who wants Manish? You want to pick one?
All right. All right. Okay. Okay.
Uh-oh, I'm scared.
Let's talk about Djokovic's accomplishments. Oh, sorry.
Doping.
Oh,
Oh,
This
man.
is good.
that actually, the timer has begun.
Good segue.
I was gonna say because Tara was here,
Yes.
and we put out that podcast, which Manish
Yeah.
actually took the photo of the thumbnail, so that can give you an idea. We're just good transition. And there's been some interesting comments on that episode,
Yeah.
and even on the Talk Tennis message
Right.
board. And I think the title of that episode, or like the graphic, was a little clickbaity, saying if you don't have the money, you're basically guilty. But like, fight me.
Yeah, like that's essentially true. If you can't back yourself up, if you don't have the finances to do that, you're immediately banned. That's what happened to her. Halep went through the same thing.
So that's what
You know?
someone brought up was Halep, and that like she still is fighting a ban. But I didn't do enough research, and I didn't want to get into it right then because I like to usually be prepared with when I'm fighting something. But was Halep's? I'm assuming it was a much different case than Tara eating contaminated meat one time.
It was a different thing. Yeah, it was.
I don't know too much about the like
Halep.
her results. I just know she's
Yeah.
been like kind of off the tour for a while.
Halep's back though, right?
I think she's been she is back, but her biggest issue was the appeal process. And she couldn't get that greenlit or like, through the various channels that she needed to, versus somebody like Sinner was more or less immediately able to, get the appeal process started and, get into litigation very quickly. But for me, the biggest tell was when Tara Moore was saying that it's the first time on either tour that a player has tested positive multiple times and not been suspended. And so it's like, it's probably like a little bit more nuanced. I was listening to Andy Roddick's podcast about it, and he was saying, Sinner doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would risk all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there is like a policy for these kind of things. So it's like, will he be suspended for some time? Probably.
Well,
Just to make a statement, if nothing else.
that's being
Yeah.
appealed, right, by WADA.
Yeah. So they're asking for a 1 to 2 year suspension.
For Sinner.
Yeah. But I feel like 6
At
months.
the peak of your
probably,
career,
like,
you're told to
more
go
likely.
sit at home for at least like 1 year.
But
You can't
here's
afford
what
that.
I don't understand is he didn't have to face this in the public. He handled it all behind
True.
closed
That's the
doors.
shadiest part.
That's
Yeah.
where
To
I'm,
me, I'm like,
struggling. Don't come
Yeah,
for us.
this thing
Yeah, sorry.
comes out in like late September about how he tested positive back in BNP. Crazy. It was all under the rugs. It was all twice under the rugs.
Yeah. The
Crazy.
thing to me, and I don't understand, like, I haven't gone too deep into the appeal process and the penalties and stuff. You just seen different players over the years. But kind of the scary thing to me is, like, say center lost the ball, however, got into a system. Like, if that really, I mean, I know, like, in Tara's case with the meat she ate, and I know there's another male player.
There were
that's
two
low
two
ranked
females
that recently.
in that tournament too.
Yeah,
also, just saying.
it's like, so if these, certain cases where they're not, I mean, I don't know about Sinner's case right now, and we'll find out more, but like in Tara's case, if you're testing positive for stuff that's not like, you're not taking performance enhancers, you're not doping, actually, you're getting the substance in you through another form. That's just, it's so scary to think that way. Like, your career can be taken from you like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we didn't talk about it in that episode. I've talked to her off the record, and I've talked to other players. Allegedly, the ITF, and I would assume the WTA and ATP, does put out disclaimers before when you're going to tournaments like this. And now, like Tara had mentioned, like, she's telling all her friends that are going to Columbia, like, do not eat the meat, bring your own food, pack your own stuff.
But then, but
that seems crazy.
Yeah, that affects you too. What do you, I'm just going to eat crackers all week?
Yeah.
Like, you're not eating, what you should be probably eating to recover, what they normally would if, especially these lower ranked players that maybe don't have the funds, that a top 20 player, is getting their perfectly cooked meals and having all these access. It's a totally different playing field. And then for that to be a reason to take away from you getting taken off the tour, taken out of your job, taken out of your life.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to think that way.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, it's just because we're in baseball right now and playoffs, and I was talking baseball with someone, and he was like talking about these steroids that players are taking that metabolize out of your system before the end of the day.
It's all about avoiding the test. It's like,
yeah,
which is also wild. So it's like, this is happening in pro athletics.
Yeah, I mean, clostebol is the same substance that Tatis got banned for.
Yeah,
and Zinner. So.
That's the timer.
Time's up.
Just in time.
Tatis said.
The timer. Tatis. Cute. We recorded this before Game 4 of the Dodger Padres. So, okay.
Yeah.
Grab a question or a topic.
Moving on. No baseball.
Moving on.
Oh, okay. Customizing with weight to amplify the racket to rackets.
To the racket strength.
To the racket strength. Okay, so just like taking advantage of like what the racket offers.
Oh,
yes,
yeah, okay.
that was
By
a
adding
question
weight. Okay.
on our YouTube channel.
That's
they
cool.
wanted to hear
Shout
us
out.
talk about that. So
yeah.
We've
So
got
basically,
some
Our local customization guru.
Well, if you want
question
to
is-
keep leaning on things, you could even talk about how Kayla Day chose the racket that she
Yeah, that was
uses.
a-
Yeah,
that was a
look
cool
at us.
thing. Right. Yeah, that was a cool thing to figure out.
Segway.
Because she was having a really hard time switching to a new version of the Arrow. She got so hooked on the 2019 version, and when the new one came out, I think she had tried it, but the biggest difference with the two, I mean, obviously there's like some field differences, but there really was a big difference in the string spacing, string pattern type. It's same 1619, but the old one was really spaced apart, and the new 1619 kind of went back to like the old Aero Pro Drive where it was like a denser. So she was struggling with that, but someone had made the suggestion, someone on tour or coach or whatever, to go with the pure Aero Team, because the Aero Team, the lighter version in the current line, has that older kind of spacing, the two skips, everything's more spaced out. So that actually ended up working for her, but that's a 15-gram difference in racket too. So, and I think even with her old arrows, the 300-gram ones, I remember stringing her rackets, and there was a couple, she didn't have a ton of weight on them, and maybe just a little bit of weight to match them, but so she went with the 15-gram lighter racket, ended up weighting it up, kind of probably just to something closer to what she was using before, and she was able to get the best of both worlds, kind of that, closer to 300-gram spec, and then the more open spaced stringing that she's used to, and she's so ingrained in the way she hits with her spin and the leftiness. I kind of can vibe with that, but that was one situation. But specifically, the question here is basically like customizing to maximize
The racket.
an individual, like a given racket. It's
like bring out the strength of the racket.
yeah. I mean,
Which hopefully, like, it's okay in stock
Which I feel
form.
like-
But you started doing something very similar with like the 01,
Yeah.
right? Like, weighting that up.
oh, the RF, yeah, 01, yeah.
Because you're getting that lower stiffness, more comfort but kind of emphasizing what the racket already does very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mostly on that one. Yeah, I wanted to go with the lower stiffness of the RF01 compared to the Pro. I just thought it was a little too firm for my taste. And I just added some weight here and there to kind of get it closer to the spec that I would usually play, not to match the Pro, but that's kind of what I was doing with that one. But usually when I'm customizing a racket, most of the time it's swing weight. I'm just trying to get the swing weight up to more of what I typically play with in the 330 to 335 range. But also my thing, and like I'll bring in Michelle on this, I like to add weight typically at 3 and 9 or in that region, sometimes even below, because I'm really focusing on making the racket, if I'm adding weight there, more torsionally stable. I really feel it on volleys and stuff when a racket wobbles in my hand. It's like too soft or something's missing there. So that's what I'm really focused on. And a lot of times with Michelle, I think it's a difference in like swing speeds and styles, but because your hand's just flying all the time, you're just hitting the hell out of the ball. I think really you're just focused on that 12 o'clock swing weight. So that's the difference there. Because when you're adding weight at 12, it's really just power plow. Whereas on the sides and the wider part of the hoop, it's twist weight.
I'm trying to get the racket to beat the ball at the collision.
Yeah. And not so much worried about like that off
Can you
center.
explain to me and also the viewers, when there was this guy who said like you can increase the sweet spot by adding weight.
Oh,
or
yeah.
something. Could you explain
Troy's
that?
done a video on that.
Yeah,
I'll
and that's
send it
kind of
to you.
exactly what I'm saying is the torsional stability. So basically wherever you're kind of adding weight, usually on the sides, that's kind of where you're trying to help expand the sweet spot to. You can also do it by lowering string tension, but sweet spot usually just means like it's a feeling thing, but it's really trying to get that softer feel, that less unstable feel, more stable feel. So typically wherever you're adding that weight to the hoop, especially if you really make it dense, you're going to, in a sense, stretch the sweet spot out to that region.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I usually add the stuff to just 12 and that's it. So
Yeah.
You modify a lot of your handles too.
I do.
Leather
I
grip,
like
weight,
headlight.
Yeah. And then you recently started modifying one of your 01 Pro to try to get to the RF97 spec.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's going better. I like it more than I like it not there. So I it's at a 340 swing weight right now. Which like I'm gonna be real. My favorite swing weight is like probably like a 330. I would say 333 to like 336 is like my sweet spot. Like I don't need it to be 340, but as Troy knows, I'm not like super. I'm not like give me a certain amount of grams. I literally will ask Troy like how much do I need, and that's what I do. So I should cut a little bit off both sides, but we'll see. Okay.
We'll see. Yeah.
New topic. I feel like
I like this format. This
it's
is fun.
fun.
Yeah,
I was gonna
yeah.
say the ones that we don't get to today.
We can just do it
Maybe.
again, yeah.
Oh no.
What is it? What?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm gonna
boy.
start the
What is
timer.
this?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Can we get 10 minutes?
What is this?
Who's the goat?
Okay.
Oak wants to leave. He's triggered.
Hold on.
We can't have an unbiased discussion.
How about you pick Roger?
I'll-
He'll pick
no,
Novak.
wait,
I'll pick
wait.
Rafa.
I would like to make this statement because before this starts,
Oh my
Roger
God.
Federer is going to always be my goat. He made me play. He
The goat,
inspired
not
me.
your goat.
Yeah, and I said my
Yeah.
goat. I said my
He's
goat.
my goat.
Good thing we have two separate farms.
Hold on.
My goats.
Let me finish. Damn.
My goats.
We haven't even started yet,
Yeah.
mate. And we're already falling apart. I would just want to say Roger Federer is going to be my goat
Really?
because he inspired me to play tennis. I'm here
I'm
in
too
this
old
room
for that.
arguing with you because of that man. So, but with numbers, I will have to concede Novak Djokovic is at this point the
Uh-oh.
undisputed goat.
The best of all time. We'll call him the
Don't-
boat. We'll call him the boat.
Manish,
I'm just
break
saying.
down now. Okay, for the listeners, this is an ongoing debate, but it really I don't even know, peaked last week in our office. And for the most part, we can all get along really well. But we also fight like brothers and sisters.
Yeah, Troy. Ooh, boy, I was so mad that day.
I feel like this, I gotta watch the timer.
I don't even,
and,
a lot of times I don't even
time it
really
correctly.
Yeah, like a lot of times when I'm messing with that, pressing the envelope, I'm not really, I don't even believe in my argument. I just want to,
Fight to fight?
yeah,
Same.
but also too, you see so many, I watch a lot of sports shows. So we're talking Michael Jordan, Kobe, or, Tom Brady or Joe Montana type stuff, and it's there's a lot of people that have like their best of all time or their guy, but the greatest a lot of times on these talk shows is based on accomplishments, you know? Like I honestly don't think Tom Brady's my quarterback.
Would
but
you
he
say
has
Tom
the most
Brady's
Super
a
Bowls.
goat?
Most people do.
Yeah. Okay, good answer.
You know.
Political answer.
But I think that's a team sport, and
Yeah.
there's 11 guys on the field. The individual sport is more usually easier to make a clear cut winner in this debate. You know, I don't know if it was the day that Novak got past Roger in slams, or if there's so many other things to it that people started making that, because typically speaking, Roger's more the fan favorite, Rafa even maybe, but we're not. What I was trying to get at with Manish is like, take your emotions out of it, take your what you love about Roger out of it, and talk about like
we
the
don't
numbers.
do that. Manish and I play with our emotions and heart.
Well,
Yeah, but then another thing too, I think a lot of times we get into is generational. Like we're so caught up in even like the Roger, even though like Roger and Rafa are like kind of older players for even your generation, like.
yeah,
saw-
how dare you guys? It's Steffi Graf, hands down.
Yeah, but like, what about my dad likes to make that argument a lot.
That's
about
true. That's a good
old
point.
athletes like Muhammad Ali or Lou Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like
Sandy Koufax.
people, Sandy Koufax. You know, we're like, what about Rocket Rod? What about these players? Because Rocket was like
That's
Roger's
what,
goat.
So yeah, I was just gonna bring up Rod.
Or yeah,
But like,
even-
okay, here's the question for you as we bring up generational things. Is his legacy that like continues and he like still is very visible and he's still doing things and he still has his own line of Adidas shoes, like is that part of his goatness, or was he a goat before he got there? Because Roger's doing the Rod Laver thing, in my opinion. And I don't know if Djokovic will ever do that.
oh, that's a good
Maybe.
one.
We have
Like
to
the
figure it out.
impact. See, yeah, achievements, yes, but then the impact they make on the sport itself, like Jordan, like he's still being talked about to this day.
Jumpman.
His shoes sell. He's like Jordan is a big name to this day.
that's just trying
you know?
to make money. No, I'm just kidding.
Like sure, but like if you're that big of a name that you're
Or
still
Kobe.
making, Kobe's still making an impact of the sport after he has departed. You know.
Mhm.
Do we think that Rafa changed rackets more than the other two? Because he kind of popularized the sort of rounded beam and the sort of buggy whip
You could
style?
make that argument, and like the Babolat racket.
Yeah.
Even like kind of Roddick was part of that generation, but Rafa was, obviously.
Led the way.
Yeah, and like you see Roger, he's not even reached Rafa's racket yet. Like Rafa started with the 100 square inch,
Right.
300 gram
Yeah.
racket, weighted up to whatever, and Roger's barely getting to a 98 right now. Like that's how far back he was technology wise, And a lot of
Yeah.
it might be preference and feel. There's still guys like Stan using a 95, or some of these players
Djokovic still
using
95.
some players still using 6-1s.
Yeah.
But yeah. He kind of was like one of the guys that really, brought that kind of spec, that kind of racket build, that frame design.
Because
That's
like
true.
growing up,
Good
like
call.
all of like the good players were using
Using
arrows.
90. Oh.
There is
That's how
well,
young-
like
that's how
like the
young
ones that like
he
I
is
would play
and
against
old
in
I
like
am.
tournaments, and like we're going to state CIF, all that. They're all using arrows, pure drives.
Yeah.
So
Well, that was one of the more
Civil.
respectful, civil, thank you, debates. We did that for
So
the
we
listeners.
agree by numbers, it's Djokovic.
No, we're not. We're on to the next
moving
topic.
on.
We're just talking. I think
But
we
yes.
just kind of like
Next.
we kind of just talked about the GOAT concept. Really, is what we
Yes.
talked about.
Hey, that's fine.
Not who
That's
we
good.
picked.
Yeah, that was good. I don't feel mad.
We
We
don't
did
wanna
a
be mad at
deconstruction.
each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, that was
Because like
like
if you're talking about some of
it
my
was
favorite
healthy.
players,
Yeah, it was healthy.
Aaron Rodgers.
Well, no, like James Blake would never be considered a GOAT of tennis, but he's a great man in my
And a
eyes,
good
you know?
legacy too. He's still
Yeah.
around, still
Yeah.
impactful.
People love him,
Yeah, people
true.
do love him.
but I do love Roger. So
Okay, pick a
I get-
topic.
Yours.
they're all the
pick
go.
another one.
Pick another one.
It's like the Trinity, 3 in 1.
Basically, just piggybacking when we're talking about the Rafa racket or the Arrow, will rackets become lighter?
Yeah,
as
that
a
was
trend?
that was another question from our YouTube. They were alluding to the fact that a lot of people are scared of heavy rackets and curious if they'll just keep getting lighter.
Look at Alcaraz, using a near stock version of the Aero VS, essentially. Like,
Yeah, the older ones. Yeah.
I mean, if he can whip that at that speed and make it work for him, I think that's a good pattern to sort of establish, And it's not to say that heavy rackets won't have a place for a lot of advanced players, because I think for a lot of advanced players, actually, the additional mass is going to correct a lot of their stuff and give them better technique in the long run. But if you can make a lighter racket work for you, why not?
mean, look at the trend as well. As the rackets have gone lighter and lighter, the swing speed of like your average pro player has gone faster and faster. More racket head speed, more spin, more still hitting a bit more power as well. So I think as the game keeps developing, it only makes sense for them to go lighter and lighter because of high demand of like spin, speed, all that the sport needs. Back then, the serve +1, the serve and volley made sense. You need the weight, you need the stability, you need that extra plow through. Made sense. Now, because you're swinging with such a bigger head size as well, you need something light to like hit the sweet spot more consistently as well. So,
or what you mean, like the bigger head size, you need. They're lighter to accelerate it to get the spin to bring it down.
Yeah, so it makes sense. But then again, we'll always have players who are gonna hit flatter, who are gonna still, like the likes of like I think Rublev has a big like a heavy racket, and like Lehechka, like all these big hitters need big rackets, like heavy rackets. So I think that the heavy racket is still going to exist. But it is going to get smaller and smaller. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, like the market kind of shows it too. There's not as many brands nowadays that are really focused on that kind of like traditional player spec, like maybe there used to be. Like, I mean, we have like the 6195, which is kind of like a remake of a classic. But even like some of the Vocal rackets, because like Vocal were known as they were kind of strong in that like kind of heavy like C10 Pro. We still have the C10 Pro, but that's like a 30-year-old racket that's kind of a remake. But it didn't seem like the brands really focus on that anymore. I mean, it's hard for Michelle to find an RF. Like more. Right. I mean, we have enough of them, and you still play with the racket a lot, but brands are not really seeming to focus on that like above 12-ounce spec anymore. The rackets that they're really focusing on the heavy side are more like a E-Zone 98 Tour or like these kind of like 305 gram rackets. Some of them have heavier versions, V-Core Tour. Right. What are some other examples like?
Radical Pro.
Yeah, Radical Pro is a good one, 310 or 315. So it's like more like that. The heavy end of the spectrum now is more like that 310 to 320, about as heavy as they're getting.
Yeah.
Whereas before it used to be like 325 to 345. Whereas like more of the unstrung grams for some of those players' rackets. So
which like the way I'm thinking about it, because you brought up Rublev, and like he does have a pretty beefy, and like it's amazing that he swings it as fast as he does. But then it's like, how do you, as someone that does prefer a beefier feel, like how do you go down from like, how do you start like progressing down? Because it is a huge adjustment. I mean, like, I could see, like, a little bit.
Well, Fed did it to his,
well, but he didn't. I mean, he did, but he didn't.
He still had a high static weight.
I was going to say. And then, like, this RF01 Pro, like, Troy will say, like, he's not competed with it. He won't compete with it.
Well, you like pure drives, too. Like, when you hit with your pure drive, what's your preferred weight range?
Where I like a higher swing weight. Okay. And I like the tour. And then, like, the ones that I've been hitting with, I have added weight. I love a standard pure drive, but you guys have all
ideally right?
I start slapping, the ball's erratic. I just need that extra weight to like control myself.
Like at least 310, 315 probably.
But I mean, like, sure, playing fun dingles, we can go out and slap balls.
But think about like the Rafa Origin, like the spec of that he typically has been using. The static weight's not crazy. It's it's targeted at 317, but 360 to 370 swing weight, maybe depending on the year or the time of the year, clay or indoor or whatever. Yeah. But like crazy high swing weight. It's almost a top heavy feeling racket. Yeah. Even though it's not technically head heavy. But yeah, the Rafa's an interesting spec.
Right. It's like, it's going lighter, but the balance is just very different.
Yeah.
And so like the overall mass is lighter, like we were saying. But maybe there's just a balance trend as well that's changing.
Yeah.
I respect Rafa more now. Just wanted to say, I know your time. I respect Rafa more now than I already did, knowing what the man has been swinging or supposedly been swinging. I guess people still saying it's not the real spec. But, oh my God, that man swinging a hammer.
And so fast.
Such a goat.
Manish, picking a topic. We're almost out of time.
Yeah, when you talk about like fighting, like as a player, man, a competitor, Rafa's different, man.
He's different. Yeah. He's not like us.
Oh, this is good. Favorite pro player out of the top 50?
Outranked outside of the top 50?
Outside of the top 50, yeah.
Oh man, currently.
Rafael Nadal.
Oh my god.
Could they have never broken top 50?
And I'm here to fact check if you need me to check a ranking. I didn't really.
I mean, yeah, right. Like I could say Nishikori.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Chilich.
Oh, there you go.
but I mean, I guess that could be like one thing, just depending on where they're at now. But like, also too, do you have any players that have like that you really like that were consistently never at the top?
Tokopolov.
Caruso.
I was kind of waiting
I
for
feel
you
like
to
Caruso.
say that. I set you up. That was the perfect setup. I was
Caruso
like,
just reached his career high ranking. He's in the top
300.
300 now, playing really well. Just got married as well. I've been following him for a good amount of time, so I know all this stuff. It's crazy.
Does he play
Soccer
K-pop or
alert.
K-Pro?
K-pop.
He doesn't play
Is
K-Pro.
his team teed up as well, right?
no, he's team.
No, he's a affiliate. of ours.
Tourline.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's
he
a
is an
team.
affiliate.
He's
of
an
ours.
affiliate. Yeah.
Correct. Slightly
So
different.
yeah, no, I really like the way he plays. Again, flat hitter. Has that Agassi like backhand as well, which I really
Yeah.
like.
Beautiful backhand.
Yeah, great backhand. He's a two-hander and I'm a one-hander. And I really like his backhand.
There's some
So
fun people outside the top 50.
there is, most definitely.
People who never really had that like top 50 staying power that I liked. Dustin Brown.
Yes.
Dustin Brown.
Yeah.
Love
So fun to
that.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah, Wimbledon season, he's like out
Peaking,
there every other day. He's chilling.
I'm trying to think of somebody,
Sessionato, I really like watching.
Marco
Fingers-
Cecchinato.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
streaky, but like when he's on,
Yeah.
Go
right,
Finn.
silky smooth. One hander with an arrow.
Golf in,
Come on.
yeah.
I've always liked Dusan Lajovic.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's currently.
He's 68 right
He's
now.
been inside top 50.
I think so.
But he's one of those guys, one-handed backhand,
Mm.
plays with a 6-1, and
Portofeo.
like, yeah, just a smooth striker.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Really
in that,
nice, too.
kind of like in that stand, kind of like vibe. The way he plays, he kind of likes to rip it.
I'm also gonna check out.
I mean, there's
the-
up and comers.
Yeah.
Go
The
for it.
women.
Obviously, Joao
for it.
Fonseca.
Yeah.
Very excited about what he will bring
Oh,
to
okay.
the tour hopefully next year.
I always, when you say that, I forget who that is. I used to think of Joao Sousa.
Right.
There was a Joao
right.
Sousa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The Portuguese player.
Yeah, Sousa.
Oh.
Big hitter as well, actually.
The Andreeva sisters were supposed to play. Did that already
They did,
happen?
yeah.
Who won?
The
Erica.
younger- the older one.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Good
6'3",
for her.
6'1".
Older sisters.
Mhm.
Because I'm looking at the WTA.
Yeah, she's
website.
kind of making a name for herself now.
Yeah.
But
that's
she's
funny.
kind of been on the tour for a couple years and
Little
not really
longer.
broke through.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Renata's at 72 right now.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
Taylor Townsend outside the top 50. She's at 52.
And I do like watching Marcos Giron, and he's been outside the top 50 for a while, but now he's kind of a perennial top 50 guy.
I was going to
But,
say 47.
but Marcos also, he's a former teammate of Cruz at UCLA, or
Yeah.
they might not have been on the same team.
What's the
but
team name? The Bruins or something?
Oh.
yeah, yeah. UCLA Bruins.
Okay. I
Tell me
don't
you're,
know.
Tell
I'm
me you're not
from-
American without telling me you're not
UCLA
American.
Bruins, yeah.
Maxime Cressy was on that.
Cressy.
Also, that would be a
Super
good
fun to
Mackey was
watch.
part of that bunch, I think. Was Mackey part of that group? Yeah, he was. He was on the team with some of those guys for a little bit.
I know he was really highly ranked and he's dropped a little bit, but I actually do really like watching Eubanks. I think he's really
Chris Eubanks.
smooth and obviously a huge serve, but you don't see a ton of guys that tall with a one-hander, so
Yeah.
that's fun.
Except for this young guy.
Sheep,
Yeah.
guy. But he's top 50 now.
Pericard.
Yeah. But tall guy with a one hand.
Yeah.
Tall guy with the one pure drive.
You know
He-
who?
he
You know
has
who
a
was a
type.
tall? You know who was a tall guy with a one-hander? It wasn't a great one-hander. It was mostly slice, but that was Dr. Ivo Karlovic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Big
let's
serve.
do one last one. Oak, pull
Okay.
it.
Alrighty. Ooh, stereotypes for rackets and players.
That was
So what does
also
your
a-
racket say about you as a player? That's
That was
funny.
kind of
What
a
did Tara say
YouTube.
about the pure drive?
I don't know. You're a basic.
Oh.
Basic person.
A basic. I was gonna say a basic B.
Oh, she said something about the pure drive, like, oh, you just like it's just a cheat code. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
something
yeah.
like
I mean,
Hey,
yeah.
She just switched to the pure drive. So
yeah. She said something about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it will. This question was asked as what some stereotypes are about certain rackets, like the player and the racket and the racket and the player. Like
Yeah.
all blade players grunt.
Yeah. Even by brand, I've seen the ones where they've done them by brand. Like if you play with the Yonex, you're kind of mysterious. You think, like
I've
this
seen
and that.
those
Like,
videos. Yeah,
Shout
yeah.
out to Christiane. I should pull it up. Remember, she did one for T-Dub, and it was like, if you play with the Babla Pure Drive, if you play with the blue Pure Drive, or she didn't even say Pure Drive, blue Babla,
Yeah.
you are.
Because that's even taking it further, like, because the players, you don't even know what the Pure Drive is. You're just like, oh, that person with the blue Babylon.
Yeah.
You're making such a
Yeah.
general stereotype.
Yeah.
But Pure Drive, for example, I mean, yeah, like it's a cheat stick. You just want the power. Typically, you don't associate like a touch feel type player with the Pure Drive. Even though I'm sure there's tons of them out there playing in their local leagues and stuff that like to do that. But like on the Pro Tour, right?
Yeah.
Like.
Well, and what we noticed at Templeton too is like a lot of the top players on the WTA and ATP are not using the Pure Drive, but outside of the top 50, let's say, there are a lot of Pure Drives on tour, at least on the ITF side on the women's tour.
And there has historically,
Yeah.
it just seems like recently
Yeah.
there's more like top arrows or.
If you use Yonex, you're cultured.
Right. Yeah.
Facts. Yeah.
What are some of the other ones? I don't know. Like.
What about head? Like a Prestige. You're old.
Yeah.
You really know what you want if
Shout
you're
out.
using a head
If you-
prestige.
Yeah, if you're
like-
using a head prestige, you know exactly what you want.
What about if you use
That's-
an extended racket?
Cheat code.
Or you're just short.
You're just
That's
increasing
messed up,
your
Manish.
capability as a player. If Isner can use it, then so can you.
And we talked about
Okay.
like the Isners using extended rackets and the Sangas. They're probably not thinking about it from a standpoint of like, I want more reach or more power. But some of these guys like Isner, like Sangha, are big boys with big hands and they hit with
most
two-handed
of them, yeah.
backhands. Like you need a racket. You need a handle. You can't play with these. Like, these guys' hands are like massive, right? They want a big handle, big
Size
length
matters.
for their two-handed backhand, So that could be a reason. But I don't know, what are some other ones? Like if you're a Radical guy, are you kind of like an Agassi Murray fan, like that generation, and you're probably like, I don't know, two hands and
Yeah.
that type of thing. If you're a Radical guy, E-zone guy, I mean that's kind of going into Yonex, but
Technofiber, your technique is unorthodox.
What about
Yeah.
Prince? You're old.
You're old again.
you're like, are you coming from like you're a
Classic.
Chang fan?
saw,
Or,
Yeah,
like what are
so-
some of your favorite like female
Capriati?
Capriati, like that generation, like the two hands. and-
Also, yeah, Isner, Jan Michael Gamble, shout out Xavier Melise.
Yeah.
I'm just
Granollers.
fangirly now.
Grenoble, the
there
Devil's
was
Player.
this. Isn't there this? There was this reel that went around where like this girl did. If you use this racket, you're this. You do that.
Yeah.
I saw one with a Dunlop, and it says she goes,
Oh,
if you use a Dunlop
What's with
racket,
the Dunlop hate? Because Carew did it too. He posted one time. He said something like, "Oh, he was talking about Popperin or something." He's like, "Holy crap, he won this big tournament, and he was using a Dunlop." I'm like,
yeah. So
they make great.
why do you
frames.
have to be like? And he was using a Dunlop.
Yeah.
So
But what did they say about the
she
Dunlop?
said, if you're using a Dunlop racket, you're secretly good, but nobody really cares.
Like, what?
And I was, and at the time I was using the CX2.
Yeah.
I was like, hey man, what do
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah,
Nobody
because it's
cares?
like
It's
low
really
key,
funny.
like they have
Oh,
some really
man.
good frames. They're really
They
good
have
feeling,
really good frames.
solid rackets. It's just they fell off the Pro Tour representation, I think, so much from maybe back in the days. So
Well, that wraps up this episode.
yeah,
We're gonna
Alright.
keep these and add them to the next
need-
time we do this. We're gonna try to do this a little more regularly,
We
maybe
make a
every other
jar.
week. This is kind of fun, and anyone we'll put them in a bowl somewhere, and you can just add topics. We had some really trending ones for this week that we didn't pull, but that
Right.
might be for the best because we were heated about it earlier today.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for joining, you guys. That was awesome. And
Yeah,
if
it's
you
a fun
guys are
format.
listening or watching have questions, feel free to add it in the comments, and we'll add them to our sticky note, and we'll get them on the next episode.
Yeah, I think this is a really good concept, and I think we'll do this. Make a bowl and just
Just
do it.
pick. Let's do it.
All right.
perfect.
Happy hitting.
Go Dodgers.
Oh,
talk
please.
about stereotypes. Manish switching to the RF01 Pro.
I wasn't
Cut
gonna
this
say
out. We're
it.
done with
I
that.
wasn't gonna
Cut this
say
out.
it.
Cut this out. Cut this out. We're done.
Yeah.